Casper and Dennis here for Submission Radio, proudly brought to you by Manscaped. 20% off with the code SUBMISSION. Sitting here ahead of UFC 293 with the man who probably has the biggest workload of the whole week, CKB's Eugene Bareman. Dude, appreciate you sneaking us in, squeezing us in, and we would have totally understood if you said no. 6 fights on this card, dude. What's going through your mind knowing the workload that you have ahead of you?
I feel pretty relaxed and calm about the fights. I mean, that's something I've gotten pretty good at controlling and dealing with. It's just, I guess the thing that gets you a little bit is everything around that. When you have like 6 guys on one card and all their accompaniment of people that support them and all of that. And then you have, of course, if you have Israel, who brings some, minimum of 30 or 40 deep when he fights alone. It's just a lot of people. The team just expands and gets bigger, and all those logistics, all those things have to be planned. Everything has to be planned, transport, right down to the smallest detail, because we just like from the time we arrive to the time we leave, we like everything to be very synced up and everybody to be on the same page here.
Do you ever get stressed, like that many people juggling that many different schedules? They've got their own people, like you said, you got to do workouts, the weight cuts, like everything.
And you're the one who organises all this?
No, there's no way I'm the one that organises all this. In fact, I'm one of the best person at delegating these duties off. Obviously, I have Tim and Ash, but then Tim and Ash have people even under them that help out. I stress, man. I'm a fighter. I used to be a fighter, so when you fight, a bit of organisation can't stress you out. Yeah. Organising people, running around, doing this. Man, I've been in the cage. I've been in the ring or the cage 48 times. Nothing's more stressful than that. That's kind of my philosophy to life. Is like, this is a problem and it's stressful. But I've done that 48 times, so nothing's harder than that in this life.
Yeah. Just quickly, I wanted to ask you, what is the process of fight night, right? Because you guys, it's the CKB show. You guys will be like 50% of the card, but it's almost like by the time, like you got to warm people up, you got to get them ready, but you might already have somebody in the cage kind of thing. How's that all going to work?
Obviously, we're going to have quite a big team backstage looking after the people, because me and the coaches aren't going to be able to be there in the 2 or 3 fights before some of the guys' fights, like leading up to it. But we're going to have some very familiar training faces and some good minds and some good students and fighters back there helping us out. So it's just a matter of what's more important is that everybody is focused on the same objective, and we understand that at this particular time, this is the most important thing going on, and everything we do has got to be to support this cause. And it will be that fighter that's walking out next, and the fighters, making sure the fighters after them are ready. We've done that before. That's pretty good. Although we haven't done 6 at this level, I've been on cards where we've done 13 or 14 local fighters.
In the one night, one event?
In the one night, yeah. I did an event where we were the entire card. Every opponent, yeah. But this is another level. This is not a local level. This is, this is as big as it gets. So everything just has to run smooth and just run like clockwork. Yeah.
When we were watching the movie, which was fantastic, the Stalbin documentary that me and Casper saw on Monday, we got a chance to look at the team, before you guys got to the level that you're at now in terms of, everybody knowing who you are, having all these fighters in the UFC and having these big nights that are happening. And I wondered when I was watching that, if at that time, obviously like you were growing the team and you were getting ready for these big moments, but at that time, were you thinking about what it was actually going to be like once you guys hit this level? And I guess not problems, but the puzzles that arise from all the fame, popularity, having so many fighters on one card, different set of problems to what you were dealing with in the documentary at the start when you guys were sort of establishing yourselves.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you, my sights weren't set on things getting to this level. When I started the gym, I knew that we had massive talent in the pool of fighters in New Zealand. And I thought that one day New Zealand fighters would make a big impact. I just wasn't sure if I would be a part of that, if I would see that in my lifetime. So no, the answer is no. I didn't really ever suspect that this would ever happen, so I was not really prepared. But everything just needs to come back to my philosophy towards life. If you can be a fighter, if you can do fighting, if you can put yourself in this environment, in a cage, in a ring, that should equip you with the ability to deal with anything. And so we've just as things has got bigger, we've just stepped it up. We've stepped up the amount of people and the right people that we surround ourselves with. And we've just grown with it and adapted with it. So I'm happy with where we are at the moment.
Yeah, it's a great mindset. What's one thing that you maybe didn't expect from this whole thing that kind of maybe caught you off guard, or something that you were surprised about that maybe you didn't really account for?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I thought my role as a coach for many years was no one cared about who the coach was. Locally, no one cares about who the coach is. You just go there, hold your pads, corner your fighter, and you leave. But obviously, as you're on a bigger and bigger stage...
we got you. We did some interviews with you initially.
Yeah, you guys might have helped with it. Yeah.
We love chatting to you, though.
Yeah, you get to a bigger platform. It means more eyes on you, so more people recognize you. And I can't say I ever sat back and I thought that would ever happen to just someone who's a coach. The fighters are the main guys. And I just thought that that's how it should be. And the fighters are still the main guys, and that's how they should remain. But is it a big stress for me? It's like, nah, I just, if you get recognized for your work, if it's good work, and that's what they're recognizing, then be graceful, be humble, and thank them for them recognizing your work and carry on working harder.
What was it like for you then watching the movie, like seeing yourself in the movie, seeing how much screen time you had? And we're talking about it just a little bit off camera and forgetting sometimes that the camera's there. For a guy who didn't necessarily want the attention, you're in a movie now, that's quite a thing.
Yeah, it's surreal. It's quite, like we shared off camera. I didn't expect to play that big a part in the movie. But after seeing the movie and in hindsight, you're like, well, if you tell a story about Israel, it's got to include me in it somehow. Just like if you told a story about me, it would have to include Israel and a myriad of other fighters. So I just, for some reason, I was a bit naive and didn't expect me to have any sort of a role in it. But yeah, surreal. It's unreal. And it's just... this is life, right? Life changes. Many years ago, I had great difficulty talking in front of a camera or talking in public, right? And I adapted and changed, and you can argue whether I'm in a better place because of it or not, but I'm trying to, you adapt and get better and make a better version of yourself. And that's what fighting and martial arts is about. Life is about that as well, about being better than you were yesterday. Mm.
When I was watching it as well, it's interesting because it's like what Casper said, it's Israel's amazing journey, but also it's kind of like your journey as well. So we get to see your journey. And I was wondering as I was watching it, what makes Huge happy? Because I see moments in there when you're in the gym and the guys are putting in a big effort. I kind of see you're in your element, you're happy, you're kind of in this world. But then I also wonder what is it about this game? What is it about this sport? What is it specifically about what you do that makes you happy? Because I also see you sometimes and you look a little bit stressed out maybe, or you know what I mean? Because there's so much going on.
I think if you're talking about primarily what makes me happy in the sport, it's honestly helping people achieve their dreams. And one of the greatest things about the sport is it's very relative. I can take a first-time fighter who's never had a fight, and I can take Israel, who's defending his championship of the world or trying to recapture it. Those two people, it doesn't matter to this person, it's their first fight. That may as well, for them, that may as well be in the same position as Israel. They feel exactly the same things. They feel exactly the same sort of stress, anxiety. They're going through exactly the same thing at exactly the same intensity, even though it's their only first fight, and this person's trying to recapture their title. That's what's so great about it. I am helping that person accomplish one of the hardest things in their life. And when they accomplish it, I played a small part in that. And that gives me, that's what makes me happy.
It's a fascinating role. It's almost like a father figure, but not quite. But at times it blurs the line. You know what I mean? And that I think is kind of echoed in the movie as well. And there's an important part about how you say, like, you wanted CKB to be kind of for like misfits and outcasts, all the people that kind of couldn't belong. You wanted them to have a home, and that's super admirable. But where does that come from?
Where does that come from? I don't know. In New Zealand, and I think like it's like this in other countries, a gym, like a hardcore Muay Thai boxing gym, martial arts gym, MMA gym, you get a lot of people that wander through life not knowing what the next step is for them. And for whatever reason, a lot of them step into these sorts of gyms and they find direction, right? Because there's a regimen, there's a code that you have to live by. There's other people in that gym that are pushing towards a certain goal. And I was involved in those gyms from when I was very young, right? From when I was in my early 20s. And I've kind of built my gym around that same philosophy that you don't have to be, you can be a bit of a wanderer. You don't have to have your life in perfect order. In fact, most people that come through the gym don't have their life in perfect order, but this gym can assist you and help you put your life back together and sort yourself out and give you some of the tools that you need to live a better life. And that's kind of how I built my gym, around that kind of feel. Yeah.
I wanted to also ask you, like, what's your read on Sean Strickland? Because I feel like his journey, like martial arts is like super important to his journey. And also, like, I think one thing that him and Israel, even though they're very different personalities, one thing they share is I kind of almost get the sense that they're both outsiders who just want to belong, if that makes sense. And I'm curious what your read is on Sean.
Yeah, I think it's this, yeah. What I'm not able to do is figure out, is when I see anything to do with Sean, is how much of that is bullshit and how much of that is real. You know, obviously Israel, I know what percentage of what he gives to the public is bullshit and what percentage is real. And with him, a lot of it's real, only a portion of it's bullshit. With Sean, because obviously I don't have the intimate knowledge of knowing him at all, I don't know how much of him is he's just putting on and how much is, it's very hard for me to see. Nevertheless, whether that's a created character or not, to choose that type of person, that type of character to build, if he did, you have to be a certain type of person to actually even make that choice, right? So he does seem like he was a bit of a lost soul, and fighting and martial arts has helped him in his life, like it has so many people. And I'm happy for him. I'm happy for him that he's been able to make something of his life. I'm happy for him that this is going to be a big fight for him. I'm not sure if he has kids or not, but you know, like a big fight like this, a main event, it brings more of everything, and it brings more financial gain for you and your family and your people. So I'm happy for him in that regard.
We were at the media day yesterday, and Israel was talking about the fight a little bit and the fact that if it does go to the wrestling, if it does turn into a grappling, a bit of a grappling contest, and it does become a part of the fight, he's actually looking forward to that because he's been working on his game so much with Craig Jones, and you guys have been sort of working so much in that area that he'd look forward to getting a submission win almost over a knockout this Sunday. I wonder, obviously Sean was probably doing a lot of wrestling and it would be a big part of his game plan, but come Sunday, do you actually think we'll see much of the fight take place in the grappling area at all? Do you actually believe that Sean will actually be able to successfully implement that in the fight in any way?
Excuse me. If Sean is able to grapple with Israel, then we have failed in our task. And at this level of the sport, you always go in there with plan A, with your A game. You never go into a sport and say we're gonna run our B, plan B. We're gonna run plan B. So in that regard, I don't expect there to be too many grappling exchanges at all. Israel should be able to use his physical advantages to the best of his ability, and should be able to pop Sean off from a distance. And Sean's going to take a lot of risks coming inside. And our job is to put some proper heat and make him pay for those risks.
What do you think? What do you think this fight represents in sort of Israel's story arc as far as his career? The Pereira fight, there was so many different storylines there. There was redemption, coming back from a loss, and I'm trying to sort of view this as like what you guys see the narrative for this fight.
I mean, in terms of the personnel involved, like Sean and Israel, I don't know. There's not too much of a narrative. Like Sean creates the same character and creates the same controversy no matter who he's fighting. I think for us, this is about where we're fighting. And Sydney might as well be Auckland. It's literally a 3-hour flight. It's like a hop, skip, and a jump away. So for us, it's about coming to our side of the world and letting people know about, this is us. This is where we live. We live in the greatest area of the world known to man, and we want to showcase it. And this is our skills. This is how we do MMA. It's a bit different to how ABC do MMA. This is our style. And for us, that's kind of what it's about, I guess, as a team. Yeah, showcasing our talent in our part of the world, just like Volt got to do earlier. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The work that you guys put into actually making this happen isn't something that a lot of people know about. You, Israel, the team, you guys wanted to be on this card. And from what we heard, the UFC maybe wasn't that big on Sean potentially being in this spot. And for those people who may not understand it, how much work did you guys actually have to put in to make this moment possible for the fans this Sunday to actually have this fight? Because it was for a moment looking like there might not actually be a fight.
We had to, we have a very good relationship with the UFC and the powers that be. And we had to use our good relationship to leverage as many favors as we could from them. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay. There's a lot of things I don't know if you don't have to answer this, but so was this like a favor to Israel to kind of like do this fight?
And I'll leave it at that.
All right. I feel like a lot of people were expecting either like Rob or Dricus initially. I don't know if you saw last time we spoke, you kind of put out a little bit of a message to sort of Dricus and the team. Did you see that? There was the way people took it. They were like, how could you say Dricus isn't deserving and this and that? And I don't think that's actually what you said though. Did you see the fallout of that?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Because I never ever look back. That's one key thing. Is when you want to do these interviews or social media stuff is never ever, that's what I tell my fighters all the time, never ever go back and fall into that trap of going through the comments of some person in the middle of Johannesburg saying something. Yeah. So no, I didn't. Yeah. But obviously I tell you what, I knew what that would cause though.
It was in a way, and I think maybe if people might have taken it wrong here and there, but you were just clearly sending a message, right? Which is, in this world, in the UFC world, nothing is guaranteed. And if you don't take the opportunities that come to you, you're not guaranteed that you'll be the next guy in line, basically, for a title shot.
You didn't say he didn't deserve the next title shot.
There was a reference though. There's a point of reference, and it's us. It's my team. Like if you give us an opportunity, if you let us have one foot in the door, you take it. Like you never, out of respect for the title and the prestige, and forget about all the politics and all the stuff and all the people complaining about salaries and all of this crazy stuff. But push all that aside. The UFC bout is the greatest accomplishment in combat sports to have that bout. It's the most prestigious title in combat sports in the world, in our opinion. And the journey that some of my fighters are taking and have taken to become champion is just wrought with sacrifice. Injuries that are just crazy, that you just shouldn't, like no one would ever even think about competing with, but you cannot. This is great, this is crazy. This is the greatest prize in combat sports in the world. And that was my point. And my point is, my team is always willing to sacrifice. They'll chop an arm off to get to that position. So I just wanted to make a point that other teams, other people, other fighters need to give that title the same respect that we do. Maybe we give it a little bit more respect because we've had it for a while and we've also let it slip out of our grasp and regained it. Maybe that's why. But I was just trying to make a point that give that title its proper respect. There should be no injury that stops you from getting in the way because you think you've got a guaranteed shot. And it's also a little play on that the sport is crazy. And all sorts of crazy things happen in the sport you never know who's going to get the next shot.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't sit on your laurels. But in my mind, the next fight is definitely going to be with Robert Whittaker. No, just kidding.
I think I'm going to say Stipe Miocic for a second.
You had me hanging there. I was like, what?
No, Robert's never getting another shot.
Okay.
Never.
Okay.
Things
have just gone. This is a roller coaster ride, all right? I can't take any more than that.
I got to stop.
Your
Robert fans are my favourite.
Your Tron game is...
You don't think we ever see Rob get another crack at this?
He's never getting another shot. Sorry, Robert Whittaker fans. But yeah, what he should do, he got the light heavyweight. You got a better chance of getting a shot there. Anyway, moving on. The next fight is definitely Druskus.
It is Druskus. Okay.
It has to be. It has to be. No other fight makes sense. It has to be Druskus. It has to be Druskus. There's too many... we did everything in our power to get Druskus to take this fight. Everything in our power.
Israel flew over. Cage side. He was cage side, went into the octagon with Druskus after that win.
We did everything.
To try and build that fight, right?
The guy was going to fly to South Africa. He was honestly going to fly to South Africa and just beg the guy to take the fight. He wants that fight bad. He has to have that fight. It's that is as big as a Pereira fight.
Why do you guys want that fight so much? Why is that so important to you?
Because it's personal. Yeah. Not to me. I don't give a shit. I don't even agree with half the shit that's going on. It's not personal to me. It's personal to my student. And us as a coaching group, we love the challenge. We think that when we look at Druskus, the hardest guys to prepare for are the guys that don't follow the rule book, that don't do things conventionally, that are a little bit awkward. Pereira is one of those guys. And he's just a challenge for us, a massive challenge. And we would love to have that challenge. That's our perspective as coaches. But for Israel, it's personal. But that also brings another dynamic for us coaches. Like when you have that personal beef with someone like Israel did with Paulo Costa, man, a lot of work has to go on behind the scenes with us coaches, making sure that we can control that. And not let that get to the certain point where it becomes detrimental to the result of the fight. That's also like part of the challenge. Like there's so many things as a team of coaches that we find riveting about that matchup. And that definitely has to be the next matchup. And we'll do that this year.
Were you impressed with his performance against Rob? And I think a lot of people were shocked at like the way he put away Rob. Were you surprised, or did you see him as that threat before that fight?
If you don't be very, very diligent when you prepare for a person like Driscus, if you just look at the surface of what he's doing and you're like, oh, he doesn't do this, he doesn't bring his hands back here, he puts too much weight over here and blah. If you look at all those things on the surface, you won't actually understand what's really going on. And I've got people in my gym who look untrained. And they're some of the best fighters in my gym. Because sometimes when you get a person who has an odd rhythm, whose style's a little awkward, you don't change them. You try and keep that. You try and embrace that odd rhythm and that awkwardness. You try and embrace it and you try and turn it into a style. And I'm lucky enough to have people like that. When we fight Driscus, I will have some sparring partners who will be perfect representations of that kind of awkward movement, that kind of offbeat style, even though he doesn't know how to throw an offbeat jab. Like I have guys that do that who would go to any other gym and you're like, this guy's never trained in his life. But as soon as you spar that guy will give you the most trouble. So I'm just saying, we knew how dangerous he was, but in saying that, I did not think he would beat Robert, I'll be honest. I thought, and that's just based on that, obviously I've been up against Robert a couple, two times or three times? Two times. Two times. And he's got a very good team, because when you get a little deeper into it, you can see where the team is going with what they're doing with their fighter, right? And he has a very good team around him. Or he did. I think his team changes a bit now, but he's got a very good team around him. And I just didn't think, I thought that team would have the answer for Driscus. But they came up short that day. Yeah.
Well, we'll wrap it up because you got a lot going on, but just finishing with this, this Sunday, it's going to be a great moment for Australasian sport. Everybody's so excited to see you guys do your thing, and it's going to be another awesome event for CKB. And if everything goes to plan, and hopefully that it does, I always wonder this, at the end of a night like that, is there like a cigar waiting for you in the back? Is there a little bottle of something that's put aside on ice? If things go to plan, is there a room that you go into where you sit down and you're able to sort of process everything before you go into the after party where everybody wants photos and give you their strategy for Drickus or whatever the next thing is? How do you celebrate or are able to acknowledge to yourself the achievement that you've just made before it all goes crazy again?
I just rang my wife. And I just say, the job is done. And she says, I know, I was watching. And then I hear my kids in the background. And then that's kind of like the final, that's putting that to rest. And then when I've made that call, the phone goes down. And then the after party starts. And that's kind of how I finish every night, with that phone call. And this one, my kids and my partner will be there. So the first thing I'll do is hopefully my kids are waiting for me wherever I go, back to wherever they're staying. And I'll just embrace them for a little bit. I got 2 young ones. And then the after party will start.
No phones at the after party. No more phone calls at the after party.
No. No more phone calls at the after party.
Well, best of luck, man. You got a huge monumental task, and obviously you do a tremendous job for this part of the world, Huge. So best of luck this weekend, man. And thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, congratulations on another history-making event.
No, thank you, boys. Good to be here. Thank you.